another 850,000 naira, or I will drag her out of this church myself.
Zainab's voice struck the wedding like a slap. Bola froze beside the altar. Her borrowed cream dress shook at the knees. Across from her, Bello tightened his hand around a plain wooden walking stick as cruel laughter burst from the pews. "Look at the orphan's husband," a woman shouted. "A broke cripple wearing somebody else's suit." The church erupted. Zainab, glowing in a ruby-red dress, stepped between them and blocked the officiating minister. "No extra money. No marriage." Then Bola lifted her face. "I am standing here as a woman," she said, her voice trembling, "not as the final bag in your market transaction." The laughter died. But nobody in that church knew why Bello had entered their village, or what his companies had discovered inside Zainab's secret accounts. Do not leave this story halfway. Comment your location and local time below, and subscribe to the channel. Because before this marriage was over, the woman selling Bola's future would be exposed before the same villagers now laughing at her. 3 weeks before that Sunday, Bola Ibe had been awake since 4:18 in the morning. She knew the exact time because the cracked screen of her old phone had flashed once before going black again. The battery no longer lasted through the night. Still, she kept the phone beneath her pillow because it contained photographs of things Zainab preferred not to remember: receipts, delivery notes, names. Bola rose from the thin mat in the storeroom behind her aunt's house and folded the wrapper she used as a blanket. The room smelled of dried pepper, kerosene and damp cement. 4 sacks of cassava flour leaned against the wall. Her clothes hung from a nail beside a plastic basin. There was no window. She tied a faded sky blue scarf over her hair, slipped into an orange blouse that had been washed so many times the elbows had turned pale, and stepped into the yard. The village of Afon was still dark. Somewhere beyond the compound, a rooster tested its voice. A generator coughed twice, failed, then surrendered to silence. The Harmattan air carried smoke from cooking fires and the dry smell of cassava peel. Zainab Okoro was already waiting near the back door. She wore a green house gown and held a small rechargeable lamp beneath her chin. The light made her face look sharper than it was. "You are late," she said. Bola glanced at the wall clock inside the kitchen. It showed 4:24. "You said 4:30, Auntie." "I said before 4:30. Must I explain every word like you are a stranger in this house?" Bola lowered her eyes. "No, Auntie. Good. Load the baskets. The women from Okoye are bringing 53 bags today. I want every weight entered before 7. Should I use the cooperative book or the private ledger?" Zainab's head turned slowly. What kind of question is that? The delivery from Monday was entered in the private ledger, but the farmers signed the cooperative sheet. A long pause settled between them. Zainab moved closer. "Use the book I leave on the table, but the totals will not match." The slap did not come. That made it worse. Zainab reached out and pinched the soft skin beneath Bola's upper arm until Bola's fingers opened by themselves. "You like numbers too much," she whispered. "One day, numbers will carry you to a place where nobody can hear you cry." Then she smiled. "Now work." Bola had lived with Zainab since she was 11. Her parents died when a commercial bus lost a tire on the old Jebba Road and rolled into a drainage channel during heavy rain. The driver survived. 9 passengers did not. At the burial, Zainab had cried louder than everyone. She had beaten her chest. She had promised before the pastor, the elders, and the open graves that Bola would never feel like an orphan while she was alive. For the first year, she kept that promise well enough for people to praise her. Then the condolence money finished. The small insurance payment from Bola's father's transport union disappeared into the construction of Zainab's second shop. Bola's school fees became too expensive. Her uniform became too small to replace. By 17, she was selling cassava flour, calculating cooperative dues, and cooking for a house in which nobody asked whether she had eaten. Zainab did not beat her every day. She did something quieter. She made Bola believe survival was a debt. Peter George, Zainab's husband, watched it happen. He was a narrow-shouldered man who repaired radios and small generators from a shed beside the road. He sometimes left food near Bola's door. He sometimes paid for data on her phone. He never stopped his wife. That morning, 27 women came with cassava tubers and processed gari. They stood in a dusty line beside the weighing scale, while Bola entered figures into 2 different books. The cooperative book carried full names, weights, and signatures. The private ledger carried reduced weights. A woman called Mama Salewa protested when Bola read her figure aloud. 48 kilograms? My son and I weighed that bag at home. It was 56. Zainab did not look up from her phone. The home scale is not certified. But last month you said the same thing. Then buy your own certified scale and start your own cooperative. The woman's mouth closed. Bola looked at the bag. The public scale still showed 55.8 kilograms. Her pencil stopped. Zainab's eyes lifted. Write 48. Bola wrote it. But beneath the table, with her left hand, she opened her old phone and took a photograph of the scale. That was how she had begun. Not with courage, with fear. Every time a total failed to match, she photographed it. Every time a woman signed for equipment she had not received, Bola copied the name. Every time Zainab told her to alter a date, she kept the first page before replacing it. She did not know what she would do with the evidence. She only knew that truth should not disappear simply because the person holding it was poor. At 9:37 that morning, a dark grey pickup entered the cooperative yard. It was not new. Dust covered the lower doors. One headlamp carried a thin crack across the corner. A tall man stepped down from the passenger side. He wore a charcoal grey shirt, plain black trousers, and brown leather shoes. In his right hand was a wooden walking stick. His left leg moved with a stiffness that made every step measured. 2 young men near the loading bay laughed before he reached the office. "Brother, this road is not Hospital Road," one called. The other tapped his own knee and dragged his foot in imitation. The stranger stopped. For 1 second, the whole yard waited. Then he said, calmly, "May your body remain strong enough that you never have to learn what pain teaches." He continued walking. The laughter followed him, but it sounded weaker. Bola watched from behind the scale. Something about the man's silence unsettled her. It was not the silence of shame. It was the silence of someone who had already decided that another person's cruelty was too small to carry. He introduced himself as Bello Daniels, a produce buyer from Eilerin. Zainab brightened at once. "Mr. Daniels, welcome. We supply only premium cassava products here, very organized, very transparent." Bola's pencil almost snapped. Bello's eyes moved across the yard. He noticed the 2 ledgers. He noticed the women waiting without receipts. He noticed the new signboard beside the gate announcing a processing project that was still only a foundation trench and 3 rusting rods. "Transparent," he repeated. "Completely." He asked about the processing machines funded 8 months earlier. Zainab smiled too quickly. "Delayed by customs." "Customs?" "Yes, you know government process. This is a privately funded program." For the first time, Zainab's smile moved without her eyes. "Private projects also have delays." Bello looked at Bola. "Do you keep the records?" Before Bola could answer, Zainab said, "She only writes what she is told. She is not trained." Bola felt heat crawl up her neck. Bello gave a small nod. Sometimes the person who writes what she is told remembers more than the person doing the telling. Zainab changed the subject. For nearly 40 minutes, Bello asked questions about tonnage, transport routes, moisture levels, and payment schedules. He did not behave like a roadside trader. His questions were too precise. He knew the model numbers of machines that had never arrived. He knew the approved construction budget was 19,430,000 naira. He knew the first payment had been released on March 7. Zainab began calling him my brother instead of Mr. Daniels. When he left, a brown file slipped from beneath his arm and landed near the weighing shed. Nobody noticed except Bola. She picked it up. The first page was turned down. All she saw was a blue logo shaped like a grain stalk and the words Daniels Harvest Group. Beneath it was a stamped line, Internal Review Copy. She closed the file immediately. Bello had reached his pickup when she called him. Sir, he turned. You dropped this. His expression changed when he saw the file. Not fear, attention. Did you open it? The page was already folded. I saw the company name. Nothing else. You could have kept it. It is not mine. He took it from her. What is your name? Bola Ibe. Do they pay you for keeping the records? Bola Ibe. Behind her, Zainab's voice cut through the yard. She is family. Family does not count every spoon of service. Bello looked past Bola toward Zainab, then back at Bola. Sometimes family counts everything except the person. He entered the pickup and left. That sentence stayed with Bola long after the dust settled. That evening, Zainab came into the storeroom without knocking. She sat on the only plastic chair and crossed her legs. What did that man say to you? He thanked me for returning his file. What was inside? I did not read it. Zainab studied her face. You expect me to believe that? It was not mine. Do not form holy woman for me. How much did he give you? Nothing. Zainab leaned back. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she smiled in a way Bola had learned to fear. He asked your name. Yes. He is not married. Bola stared at her. I don't know. I checked. You checked what? Everything that matters. Zainab rose and moved toward the door. He walks badly. He dresses like a man who is hiding from debt. But those shoes are Italian, and that phone he carried costs more than Peter's workshop. She turned. You will be polite when he returns. Bolza's stomach tightened. Auntie, why? Because God may finally be sending me away to recover what I spent raising you. The door closed. Bola remained still on the edge of the mat. Recover. The word entered her chest like cold water. 2 days later, Bello returned. This time, he came alone. Zainab served him malt in her sitting room and sent Peter out to buy suya, even though the nearest seller was 6 kilometers away. Bola was ordered to wear a pale yellow dress that belonged to Zainab's daughter, who lived in Abuja. The dress was too tight across her shoulders. She stood near the television while Zainab praised her cooking, her obedience and her untouched character, as if presenting livestock. Bello's jaw hardened. Madam Zainab, he said, I came to ask about the cooperative records. Records are records. Life is life. A man should not spend all his time looking at paper. She laughed alone. Bola wished the floor would open. Bello placed his glass on the table. I would like to speak with Bola. Of course. I'm here, alone. The room changed. Zainab's smile disappeared. This is my house, and she is an adult. I raised her. That does not make her a chair you own. Peter returned at that moment with suya wrapped in newspaper. He stopped at the doorway. Zainab's eyes moved from Bello to Bola. Then she gave a dry laugh. Fine. We are respectable people. You can speak on the veranda. The pastor's wife will sit nearby. Bello agreed. 10 minutes later, Bola sat opposite him beneath the mango tree. Mrs. Danladi, the pastor's wife, shelled groundnuts at the far end of the veranda, close enough to see, too far to hear every word. Bello did not waste time. "Your aunt wants me to marry you." Bola's hand tightened around the edge of the bench. "I know. Do you want that?" She looked toward the kitchen window. Zainab's red head tie moved behind the curtain. "I don't know you." "That is not an answer. It is the honest one." "Then, let us begin there." His voice was quiet. Bola swallowed. "If I say no, she will send me away. Can you support yourself?" "She keeps my identity card, my school certificate, my bank verification papers. I have no salary. The cooperative account carries my signature on forms she prepared." Bello's eyes sharpened. "What forms?" "Delivery forms. Equipment acknowledgements. Sometimes cash disbursement sheets." "Did you receive the money?" "No." "Did you sign blank pages?" "At first. Later I stopped." Then she began copying my signature. "Why have you not reported it?" Bola gave a tired smile. "To whom?" "Her cousin is the cooperative chairman. The secretary attends her church group. The police officer at the outpost buys food on credit from her shop." The words came faster now. "If I speak and fail to prove it, I become the orphan who accused the woman who raised her. People will say I am ungrateful. They already say I should worship her because she gave me a roof." Bello looked at the storeroom door across the yard. "Is that where you sleep?" Bola said nothing. He understood. "I will not buy you," he said. She stared at him. "I will not pay your aunt to own you. I will not touch you without your consent. If any marriage happens, you will have a separate room, independent legal advice, your own account, your documents, and the right to leave." Bola's pulse beat against her throat. "Why would you do that?" "Because your aunt is trying very hard to move you out of this village before an audit." Her breath stopped. "What audit?" "I cannot explain everything yet." "Then you are also asking me to trust a man who has been something." Bello looked away for the first time. "That is fair." He rested both hands on the head of his walking stick. "I am not offering romance, Bola. I am offering a legal exit from a house where your choices are being controlled. If you refuse, I will still connect you with a lawyer and a safe place. But your aunt may react quickly once she realizes questions are being asked." Bola searched his face. "What do you gain?" "Access to records she thinks will disappear when you leave. So I am evidence. You are a person who may hold evidence. That difference sounds important to you. It should be important to everybody." The mango leaves shifted above them. Bola could hear Zainab moving behind the curtain. "What if I marry you and later decide I made a mistake? Then you leave. What if I never love you? Then you do not owe me love. What if people laugh?" Bello glanced at his left leg. "They already do." For the first time that day, Bola almost smiled. It vanished quickly. "I need time." "You have 48 hours before the project auditors arrive in Quara." "Why only 48? Because after that, anybody who has altered records will begin removing them." Bola looked toward the room where her old phone was hidden beneath her pillow. She had spent years thinking the pictures inside it were only protection against madness. Proof to herself that she had not imagined what she saw. Now a stranger with a walking stick was telling her those pictures could matter. That frightened her more than Zainab's threats. Because hope can be dangerous when a person has survived by expecting nothing. That night, Zainab locked the front gate before 9. She also took Bola's phone. "I need to make a call," she said. Bola watched her walk into the bedroom with it. 10 minutes later, Zainab returned and threw the phone on the table. "The thing is useless." The screen had gone black again, but Bola saw that the back cover was not properly closed. Her memory card was missing. She did not ask about it. She waited. At 1:12 in the morning, when the compound had become quiet, Bola entered the kitchen and removed a small key from beneath the plastic rice container. Peter kept spare workshop keys there. Zainab had once hidden Bola's certificate in a metal cash box beneath the bed. The box used the same cheap padlock Peter sold to customers. Bola had noticed. She moved through the dark house without slippers. The bedroom door stood slightly open. Zainab snored softly. Peter slept on his back, with one arm over his forehead. The cash box was under the wardrobe now. Bola knelt. Her fingers shook so badly that the key struck the metal twice. Zainab turned in bed. Bola froze. A mosquito whined near her ear. Sweat moved down the center of her back. For almost a minute, nobody breathed normally. Then Zainab's snoring returned. The key entered. Inside the box were 3 bundles of cash, Bola's identity card, her secondary school certificate, 2 bank cards in Zainab's name, and a black flash drive. Her missing memory card lay inside a transparent nylon envelope. Bola took her documents and the memory card. She hesitated over the flash drive. It was labeled Machines 2025. She took that too. Then she locked the box and returned the key. By dawn, the evidence was hidden inside a torn sanitary pad wrapper at the bottom of a bucket. It was the one place Zainab would not search casually. At 6:05, Peter found Bola washing plates near the tap. He did not greet her. He placed a folded piece of paper beside the basin. She opened it after he walked away. It contained a phone number and 6 words. Faith Adebayo, legal aid. Call privately. Bola stared after him. Peter did not turn. That was the closest he had ever come to admitting that something was wrong. It was not enough, but it was something. By 10, Zainab had arranged a family meeting. 3 elders sat in the parlor. The pastor attended. So did Mrs. Danladi. Bello arrived wearing the same charcoal grey shirt, but this time another man drove him and left. Zainab spoke first. We all know marriage is honor. I have raised Bola like my own blood. Mr. Daniels has expressed serious intention. I only ask that our customs be respected. One elder nodded. Bride price is not sale. Exactly, Zainab said. It is appreciation. Bello opened a slim folder. I have no objection to customary requirements that are lawful and reasonable, but I will not pay money directly to Madam Zainab as compensation for raising Bola. Zainab's mouth tightened. You want to insult me in my own house? I want the terms to protect the person getting married. He placed 5 typed pages on the center table. The pastor adjusted his glasses. What is this? A written agreement of intentions. It does not replace Nigerian marriage law. It records promises that can later be used to show whether Bola entered this arrangement under deception. Zainab laughed. Agreement for marriage? Are we buying land? Bola looked at Bello. He did not react. Faith Adebayo entered the room at that moment. She wore a cream blouse beneath a plum jacket and carried a brown legal file. She greeted everyone, introduced herself as an independent legal aid lawyer, then sat beside Bola instead of Bello. Zainab's face changed. Who invited you? Bola's prospective husband asked that she receive advice from somebody who does not work for him, Faith said. Bola did not ask for a lawyer. Faith turned to Bola. Do you want me to stay? Every eye entered Bola's face. Her tongue felt heavy. Yes, she said. Zainab slapped her palm against the arm of the chair. This is what happens when outsiders enter family matters. Faith remained calm. Family matters are still subject to consent, property rights, and criminal law. For the next 2 hours, every condition was read aloud. Bola would keep her own identity documents. She would open and control a personal bank account. The marriage would not give Bello authority over her wages, education, or movement. She would have a separate bedroom until she requested otherwise. Any customary gifts would be documented and could not be treated as payment for ownership. The money Bello had offered for wedding expenses would be paid directly to vendors, not through Zainab. A separate sum of 1,200,000 naira would go into a monitored cooperative welfare account for widowed farmers. Zainab would not be sole signatory. Bola would receive funds for a bookkeeping certification, whether or not the marriage continued. If she wished to leave, Faith's office would assist her without Bello's permission. Zainab objected to nearly everything. What kind of woman enters marriage already preparing to run? Faith answered before Bola could. The kind who knows that a locked door is not love. The pastor lowered his eyes. Peter stared at the floor. Bello said little. At the end, Faith took Bola to the back veranda alone. "I need to ask you directly," she said. "Do you want to marry this man?" Bola rubbed her thumb across the edge of her identity card. It felt strange to hold it again. "I want to leave this house." "That is not the same answer." "I know. Marriage is not the only exit. I can arrange temporary accommodation in Ilorin. There are risks, but there are options." Bola looked through the veranda rails toward the cooperative yard in the distance. "If I leave alone, Zainab will say I stole the money. She will destroy the records. She may send people after me. We can make a report. She has already prepared the village to believe her." Faith waited. Bola's voice dropped. "Bello knows something about the project. He is not telling me everything. That worries me. It should. But he gave me your number before asking for my answer. He gave me a way out that does not depend on him." Faith nodded slowly. "That matters. It does not make him harmless. It makes the situation less one-sided." Bola looked at the agreement. "I do not love him. You are not required to. I am afraid. You should not ignore fear. Ask what it is pointing at." Bola closed her eyes. Her fear of Bello was uncertainty. Her fear of Zainab was memory. One might become danger. The other already was. "I will marry him," she said. "But I want one more condition." "What condition?" "I decide what happens to the evidence I have. He does not take it from me. He does not use it without my knowledge." Faith's expression softened for the first time. "That is a good condition." When they returned, Zainab was arguing about the size of the traditional gifts. Bola stood in the doorway. "I have agreed." The room became still. Zainab smiled in triumph. Bola continued, "But not because you have sold me. I agreed because I have made a choice inside a bad situation. Do not confuse those things." Zainab's smile thinned. Bello looked at Bola for a long moment. Then he nodded once. The wedding date was fixed for 17 days later. From that moment, Afon village began to talk. Some said Bello had paid heavily because no woman in Ilorin wanted a man with a damaged leg. Some said he was older than he claimed. Some said he had 3 wives hidden in different towns. Others said Bola should be grateful that any man had agreed to carry the burden of an orphan raised without proper home training. Nobody asked what Bola wanted. People rarely ask when gossip has already answered for them. Zainab became generous in public. She bought new curtains. She donated 2 bags of rice to the Women's Fellowship. She told anyone who listened that she had rejected many wealthy suitors because she wanted character for Bola. At home, she became colder. She removed Bola from the cooperative table and assigned her to sweeping, cooking, and peeling cassava behind the house. "You will not touch any record again," she said. "Why? You are leaving. Let the people staying learn the work. Who will balance the March entries? Not your concern." 2 nights later, smoke rose from the metal drum behind Zainab's shop. Bola smelled burning paper. She ran outside and saw Zainab feeding old ledgers into the fire. "What are you doing?" "Clearing rubbish. Those are cooperative records. They are duplicate copies." Bola stepped closer. A page lifted in the heat. On it was Mama Salewa's name and a handwritten weight of 55.8 kilograms, the real figure. Bola reached for it. Zainab shoved her back. Have you gone mad? You are destroying evidence. The words escaped before Bola could stop them. Zainab's face emptied. Then she struck Bola across the mouth. Peter came out of the workshop. What happened? Go inside, Zainab snapped. He looked at the blood on Bola's lip. He did not move. For 1 second, Bola thought he might finally speak. Then Zainab said his name again. Peter. He went inside. Bola stood beside the burning drum and tasted blood. That night, she sent photographs from her memory card to Faith using a new email address. She also uploaded the files to 2 cloud folders Bello did not control. Hope without backup was another form of foolishness. Faith had taught her that. The morning of the wedding arrived with hard sunlight and dust. Zainab dressed in ruby red from head to toe. Her jewel rose above her head like a crown. Gold-colored stones covered her shoes. She hired 2 women to record the event on phones and instructed them to focus on the gifts. Bola wore a cream gown borrowed from Mrs. Danladi's niece. The tailor had adjusted it twice, but the waist still sat too high. A small tear near the hem had been sewn with thread that did not match. She looked at herself in a cracked mirror. No mother stood behind her. No father waited at the church door. For years, she had imagined that loneliness was the worst thing an orphan could carry. That morning, she understood something else. Being surrounded by people who treated your life as their property could feel lonelier. Peter appeared at the storeroom entrance. He held a small envelope. For transport, he said. Bola did not take it. Why are you helping me now? His hand lowered. I have always wanted peace. No, you have always wanted quiet. The words hurt him, she saw it. But truth was not cruelty, simply because it arrived late. You watched her take my school money, Bola continued. You watched her use my name. You watched her hit me. Sometimes you brought food. Sometimes you looked sorry. Then you went back inside. Peter's eyes filled. I was afraid of losing my home, so you allowed me to lose mine. He had no answer. Bola took the envelope at last. Thank you for this, but do not call silence kindness. She walked past him. The church was full before 11. Bello arrived in a grey suit that fit him properly, though people insisted it must have been borrowed. He came in the same dusty pickup. No convoy, no photographers. His walking stick clicked against the concrete floor as he moved down the aisle. The insults began in whispers. Then they became jokes. One woman covered her mouth and said, At least she will never need to chase him. Where will he run to? A man near the back answered, Maybe she will carry him when rain starts. Laughter moved through the pews. Bello heard every word. His face did not change. Bola stood near the altar and watched him approach. She noticed how carefully he placed his left foot. She noticed the thin line of pain at the corner of his mouth. She noticed that nobody laughing had offered him a seat while they waited. Something inside her shifted. Not love. Recognition. She knew what it meant for people to look at one fact about your life and decide it was your whole value. The ceremony had barely begun when Zainab rose. She stepped into the aisle and announced that an important family obligation had not been completed. Bello's lawyer had already paid the agreed vendors. The welfare contribution had entered the monitored account. The documented customary gifts were displayed outside. Still, Zainab demanded another 850,000 naira in cash. For what? Bello asked. For the years I fed her. Bola's stomach turned. The pastor cleared his throat. Madam Zainab, we discussed this. I am her only family. I know what I spent. You did not an invoice for raising a child, Faith said from the second row. Zainab pointed at her. You keep quiet. Lawyers have destroyed many homes. Then she turned to Bello. Add another 850,000 naira, or I will drag her out of this church myself. Her voice struck the wedding like a slap. Bola froze beside the altar. Her borrowed cream dress shook at the knees. Across from her, Bello tightened his hand around the plain wooden walking stick as cruel laughter burst from the pews. "Look at the orphan's husband," a woman shouted. "A broke cripple wearing somebody else's suit." The church erupted. Zainab, glowing in ruby red, stepped between them and blocked the officiating minister. No extra money. No marriage. Then Bola lifted her face. "I am standing here as a woman," she said, her voice trembling, "not as the final bag in your market transaction." The laughter died. Zainab turned slowly. "What did you say?" Bola's knees were weak, but her voice returned. "You fed me because I was a child placed in your care. You used my labor for 13 years. You kept my documents. You took the compensation left by my parents. If we are counting, let us count everything." A murmur moved through the church. Zainab's face darkened. "You ungrateful animal." Bello stepped between them. He did not raise his voice. "You will not call her that again." Zainab laughed sharply. "And what will you do? Limp me out of the church?" A glass bottle slipped from someone's hand near the back. It struck the floor and rolled beneath a pew. Nobody laughed this time. Bello looked at the pastor. "Please ask Bola again, in front of everyone, whether she wishes to continue." The pastor faced her. "Bola Ibe, do you freely choose to proceed with this marriage?" Freely. The word was imperfect. She was not free of fear, poverty, or consequences. But for the first time in years, the final answer belonged to her mouth. She looked at Faith, then at Bello, then at Zainab. "Yes," she said, "I choose to proceed." Zainab grabbed her wrist. "You will disgrace me like this?" Bola pulled free. "You disgraced yourself when you put a price on me." The pastor asked Zainab to sit down. She refused. Two women elders led her back to the pew while she cursed beneath her breath. The ceremony continued. When Bello was asked to place the ring on Bola's finger, his hand trembled slightly. Pain, she realized. Not nerves. He paused. "May I?" he whispered. She nodded. The small question broke something open inside her. May I? Nobody had asked her that about anything important for a very long time. After the final prayer, the church emptied into the sunlight. People gathered around food coolers and plastic chairs. The same people who mocked Bello now pushed closer to see whether he would spray money. He did not. Zainab refused to join the photographs unless Bello paid her demand. Bola took the pictures without her. At 3:46 that afternoon, she entered the grey pickup with one travel bag, her documents and the evidence hidden inside the lining. Peter stood near the gate. Zainab remained inside. As the vehicle moved, Bola looked back once. The house had held her for 13 years. It became smaller with every meter. She expected relief. Instead, grief rose in her throat. Freedom did not erase the fact that she had deserved love there. It only proved she had not received it. Bello did not speak until they reached the main road. Then he said, "You were brave today." Bola watched red dust spin behind them. "No, I was tired. Sometimes tiredness is where bravery begins." She turned toward him. "You should have told me she would try to demand more. I suspected it. You keep saying half of things." His hand tightened on the steering wheel. "You are right. Do not praise me instead of answering me." He glanced at her. Something like respect moved through his face. "I will try not to." They reached Eilerin after sunset. Bola expected a mansion because Zainab had spent 17 days insisting Bello must have hidden money. Instead, the pickup entered a quiet compound behind a low cream wall. The house had 4 bedrooms, a small garden, and a security light above the gate. It was comfortable, not extravagant. A middle-aged housekeeper welcomed them, but Bello introduced her by name. "This is Mrs. Folktale. She manages the house 3 days a week. She is not here to serve you." Mrs. Folktale smiled. "I came to show you where everything is. After that, both of you can find your way." Bola almost laughed. The house felt strange because nothing in it appeared afraid of Zainab. Bello showed her a bedroom painted soft blue. A new phone lay on the desk beside a sealed envelope, a bank card and a folder. Bola stopped at the door. "What is all this?" "Your documents. A copy of the marriage registration. Contact details for Faith, a women's support center, a hospital and 2 taxi services. The bank account is yours. The first deposit is for living expenses and training fees." "How much?" 320,000. Bola turned sharply. "I cannot take that. It is not payment for marriage. That is easy for you to say. The account was created under the education agreement before the wedding. Faith has the paperwork. Whether you stay 1 day or 10 years, the money remains yours." She looked at the bed. 2 towels had been folded at the foot. A small key rested on the bedside table. "What is the key?" "Your door. You gave me a lock." "I gave you control of the lock." Bola picked up the key. It weighed almost nothing. Still, her hand shook. Bello noticed, but he did not move closer. "My room is across the corridor," he said. "The kitchen is downstairs. There is food. Mrs. Folktale will leave by 8. I have medication at 10, so you may hear me moving around. You do not need to help." He turned to go. "Bello." He stopped. "Thank you," she said, "but I am still watching you." He gave a tired half-smile. "You should." That night, Bola locked her door. Then she unlocked it. Then she locked it again. She sat on the floor with her back against the wood and listened to the quiet house. No one shouted her name. No one demanded water. No one entered without knocking. At 10:06, she heard a glass break across the corridor, then a low sound. Not a call, Payne. Bola opened her door. Bello was on one knee beside his bed. The broken glass lay near the wardrobe. Water spread across the tiles. His walking stick had fallen beyond his reach, and one hand gripped the edge of the mattress so tightly that the veins stood out beneath his skin. Bola remained at the doorway. "Do you need help?" His face was damp with sweat. Yes. It was not a proud answer. That mattered. She stepped around the glass, picked up the walking stick and placed it where he could reach it. When he tried to stand, his left leg failed beneath him. "Can I hold your arm?" she asked. He looked at her. Yes, she supported him until he sat on the bed. His breathing came in short bursts. A scar ran from beneath his trouser cuff toward his knee. "Medicine?" "Top drawer." Bola found 2 tablets in a labeled pack. She checked the printed instructions before handing them over. "You broke the glass trying to get water. I thought my leg was stronger tonight." Pain does not obey confidence. No, it is very disrespectful. The joke surprised her. She brought another glass, then swept the broken pieces into a dustpan. Bello watched her. "You do not need to clean that." "I know." "Then why are you doing it?" "Because if one piece remains, somebody will step on it tomorrow." He nodded. Not because she was his wife. Not because she owed him. Because broken things still cut people after the moment that broke them had passed. Bola understood that too well. The first week of their marriage was built from small boundaries. Bello knocked before entering any room she occupied. Bola asked before moving his medication. They ate together most evenings, but neither treated the meal as an obligation. If Bola wanted to stay in her room, Bello did not ask why. On Monday, Faith took Bola to a bank branch. Bola signed every form herself. The customer service officer tried to hand the documents to Bello, who had driven them there. He pointed toward Bola. "She is the account holder," the officer corrected herself. On Tuesday, Faith helped Bola write a formal request for certified copies of cooperative documents carrying her signature. On Wednesday, Bola enrolled in a 12-week certificate course in cooperative accounting and internal controls. On Thursday, she bought herself a pair of flat shoes. It was the first thing she had ever purchased without explaining the price to Zainab. She stood in the shop, holding the receipt for almost a minute. The shoes cost 16,700 naira. They were sky blue, soft at the heel, and completely unnecessary for survival. Bola cried in the taxi home, not because of the shoes, because the money had obeyed her decision. Bello did not laugh when she told him. He placed the receipt on the dining table and said, "Keep it." For what? To remind yourself that independence has paperwork. Their evenings developed a rhythm. Bola studied. Bello worked from a small office at the back of the house. Sometimes she heard him speaking on encrypted calls about haulage routes, moisture standards, warehouse insurance, and board approvals. When she entered with tea, the voices stopped or the laptop closed. That secrecy sat between them. One Friday, 3 men arrived in dark suits. They greeted Bello with unusual respect. "Chairman," one began. Bello cut him off with a glance. "Mr. Daniels is fine here." Bola heard it from the corridor. Later, she asked him directly, "Chairman of what?" "A project committee." "What project?" "The one in Afon." "That is not a full answer." "No, will you give me one?" "Not yet." Bola closed the textbook in front of her. "Then do not ask me to trust you yet." "I have not." "You ask it every time you say there is something you cannot explain." Bello rubbed the scar above his knee through his trousers. "You are right." She waited. He said nothing else. Anger rose in her, sharp and familiar. Zainab had always used silence to force Bola to doubt herself. Bello's silence was different, but difference did not make it painless. She carried her book upstairs. The next morning, Bello left a written note on the dining table. "I am withholding information related to an internal fraud investigation. I believe disclosure could expose a source and compromise evidence. That reason does not cancel the effect on you. You are entitled to be angry. Faith has been told enough to advise you independently." Bola read it twice. He had not explained, but he had named what his silence was doing. That was new. Trust did not arrive like lightning. It came like water entering dry soil. Slowly. Sometimes not at all. During the second week, Bola showed Faith the flash drive labeled Machines 2025. They opened it on an offline computer at the Legal Aid Office. It contained scanned invoices, equipment allocation lists, and photographs of machinery being commissioned. The photographs were suspicious. The same blue cassava press appeared in 3 different village reports. A scratch shaped like the letter V marked its side. In one photograph, the machine stood behind a green wall. In another, it had been moved in front of a yellow shed. The captions claimed the pictures came from different local government areas. One allocation list recorded 14 machines for a Fafon. Bola had seen 6. 9 storage tanks were marked as delivered. She had seen 4. 312 toolkits were marked as distributed to named farmers. Bola recognized 37 names belonging to women who had received nothing. Another 11 names belonged to people who had died before the program began. Faith leaned back from the screen. "This is serious. Can Zainab say I stole the file?" "She can say anything. We need to establish how the data was created, who had access, and whether the information matches independent records." "I took it from her cash box." Faith did not soften her expression. "That may become an issue. Do not lie about it. The reason you took it matters, but it does not make every action lawful. We will preserve the original device, document the chain of custody, and avoid altering the files." Bola looked worried. "Will I be arrested?" I cannot promise outcomes. I can promise that hiding the truth from your own lawyer would make your position worse. Bowler nodded. That afternoon, she told Bello she had the flash drive. He did not ask to take it. Faith has it, she said. Good. You are not angry. It is your evidence to disclose through your lawyer. You know what is inside. I know what should be inside the genuine project files. I do not know what your aunt kept. There are fake equipment photographs. His face hardened. How many? Several. He exhaled slowly. That supports what our review team suspected. Our? The people I work with. Still no full answer. Still no full answer. Bowler pushed her chair back. You sound comfortable with disappointing me. I am not comfortable. I am choosing it because the alternative may endanger people. Which people? A former contractor who reported forged delivery notes was attacked outside offer. He survived. His family is in temporary housing. Bowler became still. Bello continued. If those controlling the fraud know exactly how much we have, they may destroy records or threaten witnesses. My presence in Afon was not publicly authorized. I went as a produce buyer so I could compare what existed on the ground with what appeared in reports. Why did you not tell me that before marriage? Because I did not know whether your aunt had placed you near me to gather information. The sentence landed badly. Bowler's eyes narrowed. You thought I might be working for her. At first. And you still married me. I verified enough to believe you were at risk. You verified me? I asked questions. About my life? Yes. Without my permission? Yes. She stood. Bello did not try to stop her. Bowler walked upstairs, entered her room and locked the door. Her anger was not only about privacy. It was about being assessed again. Zainab had measured her labor. The village had measured her gratitude. Bello had measured whether she was safe to trust. Everyone kept turning her life into a file. She slept badly. At breakfast, Bello placed a folder beside her plate. What is this? The background report I commissioned. Bowler did not touch it. You are giving it to me. It concerns you. What if there are private things? Then they should never have been collected without a compelling reason. You can decide whether to read it, destroy it, or make a complaint. You think handing it over fixes what you did? No. Then why? Because accountability begins with giving up control of information that belongs to another person. Bowler opened the folder. The report was 7 pages. It contained dates of her schooling, public cooperative records, the accident that killed her parents, the insurance payment, and statements from 2 former teachers. It also contained a photograph of the storeroom windowless door. At the end, a handwritten note from Bello's investigator read, Subject appears financially controlled by Guardian. No evidence of participation in suspected fraud. Possible coerced signatory. Recommend independent legal support before contact. Bowler closed the folder. Who took the photograph? An investigator, posing as a repair customer. Fire him. Bello blinked. Why? He entered the compound under false pretense and photographed where I slept. Even if his purpose was to help, he crossed a line. Bello considered this. He is good at his job. That does not answer me. No, she waited. I will remove him from matters involving vulnerable witnesses, Bello said. I will also ask our compliance team to review how such investigations are conducted. Bowler studied his face. You really will? Yes. Why? Because being useful does not make a method right. That answer stayed with her. Weeks passed. Bowler learned how internal controls worked. One person should not approve a supplier, confirm delivery, and authorize payment. Beneficiary lists should be verified. Receipts should be issued. Complaints should not pass through the same person accused of wrongdoing. Every lesson felt like a light entering the past. She began seeing that Zainab's power had not come only from cruelty. It came from controlling every point in the process. She selected farmers. She recorded weights. She held the stamp. She deposited money. She announced complaints. She punished anyone who questioned her. That was not management. It was capture. Bola started calling women from Afon one by one. She did not accuse Zainab. She asked simple questions. What did you deliver? What did you sign? What did you receive? Did anyone give you a receipt? Mama Salewa said she had contributed 68,000 naira over 11 months, but had never received the drying rack promised to her group. Another woman said she had signed for a motorized grater after Zainab told her the signature was only to confirm attendance. A widow named Mrs. Ajala said her late husband's name appeared on a toolkit list dated 4 months after his burial. Faith recorded every interview with permission. Bello's team separately obtained bank transfers and vendor records. The two streams of evidence began to meet. Still, Bello kept his public identity hidden. At home, their relationship became warmer, despite the unanswered questions. Bola discovered he enjoyed burnt plantain edges and disliked pawpaw. He discovered she counted stair steps when anxious. She learned that his accident had happened 4 years earlier when a tanker crossed the median near Lokoja. His driver died at the scene. Bello spent 6 months in rehabilitation and still had nerve damage. People assume the stick is the tragedy, he said one night. What is the tragedy? That Chaik died and I did not. Bola looked at him across the veranda. Survival is not a crime. It can feel like one. My parents died in a bus. For years I thought if I had begged them not to travel, they would be alive. How old were you? 11. You were a child. I know that now. Knowing does not always remove the feeling. They sat quietly. No dramatic music entered the night. No sudden confession turned pain into romance. Only 2 people shared the weight they usually carried alone. That was enough. One evening, Bello's leg locked while he was climbing the stairs. Bola stood 2 steps below him. Can I help? Yes. She placed one hand beneath his elbow. He leaned into her carefully. At the landing, they were close enough for Bola to feel his breath against her forehead. Neither moved. Bello looked at her mouth, then back at her eyes. May I kiss you? Her heart struck once, hard. She wanted to say yes. That frightened her. Not tonight, she whispered. He stepped back. All right? No disappointment became punishment. No coldness entered breakfast the next morning. Bola noticed. People reveal themselves most clearly after being told no. At the end of the 6th week, the secret broke open without Bello's permission. Bola was studying in the sitting room when a business news program interrupted its evening schedule. The presenter stood before an image of a modern grain processing facility. Daniel's Harvest Group has announced an expanded internal investigation into irregularities across its rural processing initiative. The company's founder and executive chairman, Mr. Bello Daniels, is expected to address stakeholders next week. A photograph filled the television. Bello stood at a podium in a cobalt blue suit. Behind him was the same grain stalk logo from the file he had dropped in Afon. Bola stopped breathing. The presenter continued. Daniels, whose privately held agriculture and logistics group operates across 6 states, has not appeared publicly for several months while recovering from injuries sustained in a road accident. The front door opened. Bello entered carrying a pharmacy bag. He saw the television. Then he saw Bola. The bag slipped from his hand. A packet of tablets struck the floor. The room went silent except for the presenter saying that company assets were valued in the tens of billions of naira. Bola rose slowly. You are the owner. Bello did not deny it. Yes, you are not a produce buyer. I do buy produce. But no, that is not my position. You are the chairman. Yes, the men who came here work for you. Yes. The project in Afon belongs to your company. Yes. Each answer made the room smaller. Bola pointed at the television. They are calling you one of the richest agribusiness owners in the country. That description is not how I define myself. Do not do that. Do what? Use humble words to make a huge lie sound small. Bello went still. Bola's voice shook. You let me marry you without knowing who you were. I told you I was hiding information connected to the investigation. You did not hide a detail. You hid the whole shape of your life. I know. No, you know now because I found out. She walked toward him. Was the house also part of the disguise? The old pickup? The plain clothes? Did you stand in that church while people called you broke because you wanted to test everybody? No. Then why? My security team advised against public movement. The fraud network had access to internal schedules. I needed to inspect sites without announcing myself. And the marriage? That was not planned. But you used it. Bello's jaw tightened. Yes, it gave you an exit and gave the investigation time. Bola recoiled as if he had touched her. So I was useful. You were in danger. That is not the same thing. No. Did you think money would make the deception acceptable? No. Then what did you think would happen when I found out? That you might leave. The honesty hurt more than an excuse. Bola looked around the sitting room, the soft chairs, the quiet walls, the life that had felt safe because it seemed simple. Now every object looked staged. The reason may explain the secret, she said. It does not erase what the secret did to me. Bello lowered his head. You are right. She waited for him to defend himself. He did not. That did not make her less angry. I cannot sleep here tonight. Faith can arrange the apartment near your training center. You already prepared somewhere for me to leave? Yes, because you expected this. Yes. Bola laughed once, but no humor lived in it. You plan for people like they are risks on a spreadsheet. I plan because failing to plan has cost lives. And what has all your planning cost me? Bello looked at her. Trust. The word sat between them. Bola went upstairs, packed one bag and called Faith. Bello did not follow her into the room. He did not block the door. He did not offer money, jewelry, or apologies large enough to become pressure. At the gate, he handed her a sealed envelope. What is this? A signed letter confirming that your education funds, bank account, and legal support remain yours. It also states that I will not oppose separation proceedings. You prepared this too? After the wedding, Bola took it. You think paperwork can protect you from being wrong? No, he said. It can protect you from paying for my wrong. Faith's car arrived. Bola entered without looking back. For 3 weeks, she lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a pharmacy. The first night she cried until dawn. Not because Bello was rich, because safety had once again come with information withheld from her. She had escaped one person who controlled truth, only to marry another who rationed it. The reasons were different. The wound recognized the pattern. Bello called once the next morning. Bola did not answer. He sent one message. I am sorry. I will not contact you again unless you ask, or the legal investigation requires it. Faith remains independent of me. He kept that promise. Bola attended class. She met Faith twice a week. She continued witness interviews. She opened a small bookkeeping service for market women and charged her first client 15,000 naira to organize 6 months of receipts. The client paid. Bola framed the transfer alert on her phone with a screenshot. Earned, not given. Still, she missed Bello. She missed the way he asked before entering. The way he listened when she corrected him. The way he never turned refusal into insult. Missing him did not cancel what he had done. Both truths could live in one heart. Then Zainab arrived in Ilorin. She came in a hired SUV with Peter and 4 relatives. Her emerald green dress shone beneath the afternoon sun. 2 gold bangles struck each other as she marched into Faith's office without an appointment. "My daughter," she cried when she saw Bola. "So this is where you have been hiding from your family." Bola remained seated. "I am not hiding." Zainab opened her arms. "Come and greet me properly." Bola did not move. The relatives shifted uncomfortably. Zainab's smile remained in place. "We heard good news. Your husband is a very important man. You heard he is rich. Is importance not part of wealth? Not always." Zainab laughed as if Bola had made a childish joke. "We should not quarrel. Family is family. I came so we can discuss arrangements." "What arrangements?" "A house in Gra, a transport contract for Peter, school support for my children. And because I managed the Afon cooperative before your husband came, I should remain project coordinator." Faith closed the file in front of her. "Madam Zainab, this is a legal office, not a family negotiation center. I am speaking to my daughter. You are speaking in front of her lawyer." Zainab ignored her. "Bola, tell Bello we need 25 million naira to settle the family properly." What he paid for the wedding was embarrassment. Bola looked at the woman who had once counted every spoon of rice she ate. "You demanded money because you thought he was poor enough to fear losing the wedding. Now you demand more because you know he is rich enough to pay. In both cases, you are still treating me as the road to somebody else's pocket." Zainab's smile vanished. "Be careful." "No." The word was quiet. It held. Zainab leaned across the desk. "You think that man will keep you when he meets women from his own class? You are a village bookkeeper. A charity case. When he becomes tired, who will you return to?" "Myself." For the first time, Zainab had no immediate answer. Then her eyes hardened. "You stole 6,480,000 naira from the cooperative." The room changed. Peter looked away. One relative gasped. Bola felt the old fear rise from her stomach. Zainab continued. "We have records carrying your signature. Money entered an account linked to your identity. You disappeared before the audit. Perhaps your billionaire husband married you to protect a thief." Faith's voice became cold. "Are you making a formal allegation?" "Yes." "Then you should understand that false reporting and forged documents have consequences." Zainab straightened. "I have proof." Bola looked at Peter. He still would not meet her eyes. At that moment, she understood why Zainab had burned the books, why she had removed Bola from the records, why she had pushed the marriage so quickly. The wedding money was not the main reason. Zainab needed a suspect who had already left, and she had been preparing Bola's name for that role for years. Faith did not allow the meeting to continue. She asked Zainab to put the allegation in writing or leave. Zainab placed a photocopied statement on the desk. The document showed 7 transfers made over 4 months into an account titled EB Community Supplies. The total was exactly 6,480,000 naira. Beside each transfer was a payment description: equipment handling, farmer mobilization, storage preparation. 3 signatures resembled Bola's. One looked perfect, too perfect. Bola picked up the page with both hands. "I have never seen this account." Zainab shrugged. Thieves often forget their own pockets. Faith took the paper from Bola. "Which bank?" "The statement says it clearly." "Who opened the account?" "Ask your client." "Which phone number received transaction alerts?" Zainab's nostrils flared. "I am not the bank." "No. But you brought a bank statement without a certification stamp, customer address, or account opening documents. It came from the cooperative file. Then we will obtain the actual records." Zainab moved toward the door. "You can obtain anything." By the time the village hears the truth, your billionaire will throw her away himself. Bola stood. Why is Peter here? Zainab stopped. Because he is my husband. No. Why did you bring him to watch you accuse me? Peter's lips parted. Zainab answered for him. He is a witness. To what? That you handled cooperative money. Bola looked at him. Uncle Peter, did you ever see me receive that money? Silence. Zainab turned her head slightly. Peter swallowed. I saw you working with the books. That is not what I asked. He looked at the floor. No, he said. The word barely came out. Zainab's bracelet stopped moving. Peter continued before fear could close his mouth again. I did not see her receive money. Zainab grabbed his sleeve. Let us go. They left with the relatives following. Outside, Zainab's voice rose through the corridor. You want to destroy me because of that ungrateful girl. Peter said something too low to hear. A car door slammed. Faith waited until the engine faded. Then she looked at Bola. This has entered a new stage. What do we do? First, we verify the account. Second, we prepare for a formal complaint. Third, you stop speaking privately with anyone connected to the cooperative. What about Bello? He needs to know because the allegation concerns his company's funds. But you decide whether you want direct contact. Bola stared at the photocopy. Tell him I will attend a meeting with the company's compliance team. Nothing personal. The meeting took place 2 days later in a neutral conference room at Faith's office. Bello arrived in a navy suit with no tie. He carried his walking stick and a file. 2 company officers attended by video call. Faith sat beside Bola. For several seconds, Bello and Bola only looked at each other. He appeared thinner. She hated that she noticed. Thank you for coming, he said. I came because my name is on their records. I understand. Faith placed the photocopied statement on the table. Bello studied it. The account is not one of our approved vendors. Could your company have paid it? Bola asked. Yes. The rural program used a local implementing partner. Requests entered through the partner's portal, then passed regional approval. Who controlled the portal? We are still establishing that. At least 4 staff credentials were compromised or shared. Bola's anger sharpened. So your system allowed one cooperative official to use my name and collect millions? Our system failed to prevent it. That is a polite sentence. Bello accepted the rebuke. You are right. My company released money without confirming who controlled the account, or whether the services existed. That failure harmed you and the farmers. One compliance officer began to say the investigation was ongoing. Bello lifted a hand. Let her finish. Bola looked at him. The fraud did not happen only because Zainab is greedy. It happened because people far away saw village women as numbers. Nobody called them. Nobody checked the machines. Somebody took photographs, wrote a report, and moved on. The video screen went quiet. Bello nodded. That is correct. What are you changing? We have suspended all payments on the program. Independent auditors are reconciling beneficiaries. Future deliveries will require serial number photographs, beneficiary confirmation, and direct receipt records. No local coordinator will control selection, delivery, and complaint handling. Who designed those changes? Our team. Did any farmer design them? Bello paused. No, then you are still repairing people without asking them where it hurts. Faith's eyes moved toward Bello. He leaned back. What do you propose? A farmer oversight panel. At least half women. Minutes in simple language. Public lists posted before payment. A complaint number that does not return to the same local office. And receipts both on paper and by text message. The compliance officers began taking notes. Bello looked at Bola with something deeper than pride, respect. We will include those measures, he said. and we will pay you as an independent consultant if you agree to help design them. I will discuss the contract with Faith. Good. Not wife. Not beneficiary. Consultant. The distinction mattered. The bank records arrived the following week. The account B, eBay Community Supplies, had been opened with a photocopy of Bola's identity card, a forged utility bill, and a phone number registered to Peter's repair shop. The account opening photograph was not Bola. It showed a woman wearing a large head scarf and medical mask. Her eyes were partly hidden by tinted glasses. The handwriting on the form resembled Zainab's. But resemblance was not proof. The transaction alerts went to a small phone found later in a locked drawer at the repair shop. Peter claimed he had never used it. Zainab said the drawer was accessible to everyone. Faith requested handwriting analysis and device records. The company traced 2 cash withdrawals to a bank agent near Zainab's second shop. Closed-circuit footage had been overwritten due to time, but the agent remembered Peter collecting one withdrawal and Zainab collecting another. Peter denied it at first. Then the dates were placed before him. On one date, he had purchased a used generator for the shop with cash. On another, he paid roofing workers at Zainab's rental property. The money had entered their household. Silence was no longer Peter's only wrongdoing. When Faith confronted him during a formal witness interview, he broke down. "I did not plan it," he said. "Planning is not required for participation," Faith replied. Zainab said the account was only temporary. She said the company owed the village and that everybody was taking something. "Did you know Bola's identity was used?" Peter covered his face. Yes. Bola sat across from him. The room felt colder than it was. "Why?" she asked. Peter lowered his hands. "Because your documents were in the house. Because you already signed cooperative papers. Because Zainab said if trouble came, she would correct it before anybody suffered." Bola almost laughed. "Before anybody suffered?" Peter began to cry. "I am sorry. You were sorry when I slept beside sacks of flour. You were sorry when she took my certificate. You were sorry when she hit me. Your sorrow has always been very active inside your chest and completely useless outside it." Faith did not interrupt. Bola's voice became quieter. "You did not protect peace. You protected comfort. Every time you kept quiet, the cost moved to somebody weaker." Peter signed a statement. He admitted that Zainab directed the creation of the account. He admitted receiving cash twice. He admitted storing a phone used for alerts. He also revealed that Zainab had prepared a complaint accusing Bola before the wedding. The allegation was never a reaction. It was an escape plan. The project's public launch had already been scheduled for the following month. State officials, farmers, local journalists, and Daniel's Harvest representatives were expected. After the fraud concerns became known, the company wanted to cancel it. Bola objected. "Do not cancel," she said during a planning meeting. Bello looked at her across the table. "The site is incomplete. Then let people see that. There may be legal risks. Faith can manage what is disclosed. Zainab will use the crowd. She has been using the crowd all my life." Bello's hand rested on his walking stick. "What are you asking for?" "A public reconciliation meeting. Not a show where you announce you are rich and everybody starts kneeling. The farmers must see the records. The company must admit its control failures. Zainab must answer the evidence. And the women must decide what repair looks like." Bello held her gaze. "You are asking me to expose my company's failures publicly?" "Yes. That may affect contracts." "Yes. Investors may react." "Yes." A faint smile touched Bola's mouth. "You see? I also know how to give uncomfortable full answers." Bello almost smiled too. Then he became serious. "You are right. We will do it." News of the event spread through Afon. Zainab moved first. She told the women that the company planned to seize cooperative land. She claimed Bola had manipulated Bello because she wanted revenge. She printed photocopies of the false account statement and distributed them after church. A local blog published the headline, "Billionaire New Wife Linked to Missing Farmer's Fund." Bola's photograph appeared beside it. For 2 days, her phone filled with insults: gold digger, thief, ungrateful orphan, roadside calculator. One voice note said she had married a disabled man because she believed he would die quickly. Bola listened to that message once. Then she switched off the phone. Bello came to the apartment that evening only after Faith confirmed Bola wanted to see him. He wore a simple white shirt and carried takeaway food. "I brought jollof rice," he said. "Is this a bribe?" "There is fried plantain." That sounds more serious. They ate at the small table near the window. For a while, they discussed only the event schedule. Then Bello said, "I can have the blog take the story down." "Through lawyers?" "Yes." "Will that stop screenshots?" "No." "Will it prove I am innocent?" "No." "Then let the evidence answer." Bello looked at her. "You should not have to be strong every time somebody harms you." "I am not strong every time." "What are you now?" "Angry, tired, afraid." "Do you want the event postponed?" "No." "Do you want me beside you?" The question stayed between them. Bola looked down at her plate. "Beside me," she said, "not in front of me." Bello nodded. "Beside you." On the morning of the launch, Afon's community hall was dressed as if paint could hide missing machinery. Green and white fabric covered the walls. A large banner announced the Rural Cassava Transformation Center. Plastic chairs filled the hall. Journalists stood near the stage. Farmers waited beneath temporary canopies outside. At the rear of the site, 6 processing machines had been polished until their blue surfaces shone. The empty spaces where 8 more machines should have stood were hidden behind decorative screens. Zainab arrived before everyone. She wore a ruby-red tailored dress with an emerald-green head tie. Her lips were painted dark. 2 young men followed her carrying folders. By 9:30, she had already told half the crowd that Bola would be arrested that day. Peter did not come with her. At 10:17, Bola entered the compound. She wore a burnt orange dress beneath a light blue jacket. Faith walked on her right in plum and cream. A cooperative auditor walked on her left, carrying sealed evidence files. The murmurs began immediately. "That is her. The billionaire's village wife. See the expensive clothes she bought with our money." Bola's dress had cost 38,000 naira from her own consulting payment. She kept the receipt in her bag. Not because she owed the crowd proof of every purchase. Because for years, people had trained her to feel guilty for owning anything. At the entrance, 2 security men blocked her. Zainab approached slowly. "What is she doing here?" Faith showed the event invitation. "She is a registered stakeholder and witness." Zainab laughed. "Witness? A thief cannot witness her own theft." The crowd pressed closer. One of the young men beside Zainab raised a phone and began live streaming. Zainab pointed at Bola's bag. "Search her. She steals records." The security men hesitated. Faith stepped forward. "You have no authority to search her without consent." Zainab's voice rose. "This is cooperative property. She is carrying our money." Bola felt hundreds of eyes on her. The old fear came back with terrible accuracy. The storeroom, the locked gate, the burning ledgers, the hand pinching her arm. Zainab moved close enough for only Bola to hear. "You should have stayed grateful." Then she reached for the bag. Bola pulled back. The strap tore. The bag fell. A calculator, 3 notebooks, a flash drive case, and folded receipts scattered across the floor. Zainab lifted the old calculator between 2 fingers. "See her!" she shouted. A roadside calculator that finally found a rich pocket. Laughter broke out, the same kind of laughter from the wedding. Bola crouched to gather her things. Zainab kicked one notebook away. A page opened beneath the shoe of a journalist. On it were handwritten weights from 3 years earlier. The journalist bent down. "What is this?" Zainab snatched the notebook. Stolen property. A large screen inside the hall flickered to life. The false bank statement appeared beside Bola's photograph. Suspected cooperative fraud. Pays 6,480,000. The crowd roared. Somebody shouted, "Arrest her!" Another voice said, "Billionaire money cannot clean thief blood." Bola stood in the center of the noise. Her breathing became shallow. Faith took her hand. "Look at me," the lawyer said. Bola did. "Do you want to leave?" The question cut through the crowd. A real choice. Bola looked at the screen, then at Zainab. No, a convoy entered the compound. 3 dark vehicles stopped near the hall. Company directors, auditors, and security officers stepped out. Bello emerged last. He wore a bright cobalt blue suit and white shirt. His walking stick touched the ground with the same measured rhythm the villagers had mocked weeks earlier. The compound changed. People recognized him from television. Phones rose. Whispers turned to gasps. "That is Bello Daniels, the chairman, the billionaire." Zainab's face lost color. Bello walked past the people who suddenly tried to greet him. He did not look at their extended hands. He did not stop until he stood beside Bola. Beside her, not in front. Zainab recovered quickly. "Chairman, thank God you are here. Your wife has brought shame to your name. We discovered she stole." Bello raised one hand. "Her marriage to me is not evidence of her innocence." The crowd became quiet. Zainab blinked. Bello continued. "My wealth is also not a court judgment. Records will speak. Witnesses will speak. And my company will answer for the controls it failed to enforce." A journalist lowered his microphone in surprise. This was not the rescue people expected. It was better. Inside the hall, the company removed the decorative screens from behind the machines. Empty concrete platforms appeared. 8 missing spaces. 5 absent storage tanks. Rows where 193 undistributed toolkits should have been recorded. The crowd stopped murmuring. Numbers had become visible. Faith took the microphone first. "No conclusion presented today replaces the police investigation, banking inquiry, or court process," she said. "This meeting is for verified disclosure, institutional accountability, and farmer participation." The lead auditor displayed the approved project schedule. 14 processing machines, 9 storage tanks, 312 toolkits, 38,760,000 naira in total approved support. Then he displayed the physical verification. 6 machines, 4 tanks, 119 confirmed toolkits. A low sound moved through the women outside. Not surprise, recognition. Mama Salewa stood. "I signed for a drying rack I never saw." Mrs. Ajala raised her hand. "My dead husband's name is on the list." Another woman called out. "They reduced our cassava weight and used the full weight in reports." Voices rose across the hall. Zainab grabbed the microphone from a table. "These women are confused. Bola has filled their heads because she wants my position." Bola stepped toward the stage. Her legs trembled. She climbed anyway. The screen changed to photographs from her old phone. A weighing scale showed 55.8 kilograms. Beside it, the private ledger showed 48. Another photograph showed a farmer signing an attendance sheet, later used as an equipment acknowledgement. Then came the duplicate machine photographs. The same blue cassava press appeared in 3 locations. The V-shaped scratch was circled. The crowd became still. Faith displayed the bank account records. B. eBay community supplies, the forged utility bill, the masked account opening photograph, the alert phone registered to Peter's repair shop, cash withdrawal dates, payments into roofing work, and a used generator. Zainab's voice cracked. This is manipulation. The auditor played an audio recording. Peter's voice filled the hall. Zainab said the account was temporary. She used Bola's identity because the documents were already in the house. I collected cash twice. I knew it was wrong. I kept quiet because I was afraid of losing my home. A chair scraped the floor. Zainab turned toward the exit. Two investigators stood near the door. They did not touch her. They simply informed her that a formal invitation for questioning had been issued, and that destruction or removal of records would carry additional consequences. She spun back toward Bello. "Please," she said. The word was soft now. She moved closer to him. "I raised your wife. Whatever mistakes happened, I am still family. We can settle this privately." Bello looked at her for a long moment. Then he pointed toward the farmers. "Do not apologize to the richest person in this room." His voice carried through the hall. "Apologize to the women whose hunger paid for your clothes." A cry rose from somewhere near the back. Zainab turned. Dozens of women were standing. Some held faded receipts. Some held nothing. All of them looked at her. For years she had controlled their names, their weights, and their access to help. Now they controlled the silence. Zainab opened her mouth. No words came. Bola stepped down from the stage and stood before her. "Auntie, I will not ask you to kneel." Zainab's eyes filled with sudden hope. Bola continued, "Kneeling is easy. People stand up after kneeling and continue the same life." The hope disappeared. "You will answer the investigators. You will return what can be traced. You will face the women whose names you used. And you will not use family to escape accountability." Zainab's face twisted. "After everything I did for you," Bola's voice remained calm. "You gave me a roof and then charged my whole life as rent. Care does not become ownership because the person receiving it is vulnerable." The hall was silent. Then Mama Salewa began to clap. One beat. Another. The applause spread slowly, not like celebration, but like release. The people who had laughed at the wedding now lowered their eyes. The same woman who had mocked Bello's leg stood near the wall with her phone at her side. Bello noticed her. He said nothing. He did not need to. The truth had already made the room uncomfortable enough. The meeting did not end with handcuffs, shouting, or instant justice. Real accountability rarely moves that neatly. Investigators collected copies of the financial records. The bank placed restrictions on accounts connected to the disputed transfers after receiving the appropriate legal requests. The cooperative board suspended Zainab and 2 officers pending a full inquiry. Daniel's Harvest Group announced an independent review of every rural project managed through the same regional channel. Some villagers complained that the process was too slow. Others complained that it was too public. Zainab complained that everybody had forgotten her years of service. But the women whose money had vanished were tired of being told that service excused theft. The first audit report took 11 weeks. It confirmed that at least 22,310,000 naira in project funds had been misdirected, unsupported, or tied to false delivery records across 3 communities. Not every missing naira could be traced to Zainab. Some failures belonged to company staff, the implementing partner and suppliers, who invoiced equipment they never delivered. Bello refused to let the company place the entire blame on one village woman. At a press briefing in Ilorin, he stood before cameras in a dark blue suit and said, "Fraud succeeds when individuals choose dishonesty, But it also succeeds when institutions design systems that do not bother to see the people at the bottom. Our controls failed. We are responsible for repairing that failure. 2 regional managers were suspended. 1 procurement officer resigned before disciplinary proceedings concluded. A supplier contract was terminated. The company paid for an external forensic review and published a plain-language summary for the affected communities. Investors questioned the cost. Bello answered that hidden damage was always more expensive than visible repair. Bola watched the briefing from her apartment. She did not feel proud in the simple way she expected. She felt relieved. He had finally told the whole truth when the truth could cost him something. That mattered more than the apology he had given in private. Zainab's case moved through formal channels. She was questioned, released under conditions, and later charged alongside 2 other cooperative officers and a contractor. Her lawyers disputed several allegations. Some counts remained under investigation. The court ordered preservation of relevant assets while the case continued. Peter cooperated with investigators. His cooperation reduced neither the harm nor the shame. It simply became one factor among many. He sold the used generator bought with diverted money. Part of the proceeds entered a restitution account. He also surrendered documents hidden in the ceiling of the repair shop, including old beneficiary lists and payment instructions in Zainab's handwriting. When he met Bolo again, it was in Faith's office. He looked older. "I have no right to ask you to forgive me," he said. Bola folded her hands on the table. "That is true." He nodded as if he had expected the sentence but still felt its weight. "I used to think because I did not hit you, I was not part of what happened. You were part of it. I know. Do you?" Peter swallowed. "I watched the person with power hurt the person without it. I kept choosing the side that made my life easier. Even when I felt sorry for you, I did not accept any risk for your safety." Bola looked at him carefully. That was the first apology he had made without trying to escape inside his own fear. "What will you do with that knowledge?" she asked. "I do not know yet." "Then find out. Do not make me responsible for turning your guilt into goodness." He nodded again. Bola did not forgive him that day. She did not punish him either. She left him with the work that belonged to him. The farmers formed an interim oversight committee. 7 of its 11 members were women. Meeting minutes were read aloud in English and Yoruba. Beneficiary lists were posted before distribution. Every machine carried a visible serial number. Recipients signed only after seeing the item described on the form. The complaint number was managed outside the cooperative office, and nobody held the stamp, the ledger, and the bank token at the same time. Bola helped design the system under a paid 6-month consultancy. Her contract was reviewed by Faith. The fees entered her own account. She issued invoices. She paid tax on the income. The details were not glamorous. They were freedom. At the end of her training course, Bola scored 87% in cooperative controls and 92% in record reconciliation. She framed the certificate above the desk in her apartment. Beneath it, she placed the receipt for the sky blue shoes, the first proof that her money had obeyed her. Her bookkeeping service grew. Market traders brought nylon bags filled with receipts. Small farmer groups asked her to organize contribution records. She hired a young graduate named Simi as a part-time assistant and paid her on the last working day of every month. The first time Bola authorized another person's salary, she checked the transfer 4 times. Then she sent Simi a payslip. "Madam, you do not need to explain the whole calculation," Simi said, laughing. "Yes, I do," Bola replied. "Your money should never be a mystery controlled by somebody else." The office later became known as Open Ledger Women's Desk. It provided bookkeeping, document storage, and basic financial education for cooperatives and market associations. Women learned to keep copies of forms, photograph signed pages, check account names, and refuse to sign blank documents. Bola never told them that paperwork would save them from every dishonest person. It would not. She told them something more useful. Evidence does not guarantee justice, but absence of evidence gives injustice too much room. Bello supported the program, but not by placing his name above the door. The first time he offered to fund 3 years of operations, Bola refused. "We need multiple clients and partners," she said. "If one powerful person controls all the money, the program becomes dependent on his mood." "My mood is excellent," Bello said. "That is exactly what every powerful person says about himself." He laughed. They had begun speaking again after the public meeting, slowly. At first, every conversation concerned contracts, audits, and farmers. Then they discussed books, food, his physiotherapy, her new clients, the neighbors who played loud gospel music every Saturday morning. Bello did not ask her to return home. He attended counseling alone before suggesting joint sessions. When he finally asked, Bola agreed to meet a therapist with him twice a month. In their first session, the therapist asked Bello why he had concealed his identity. "To protect an investigation," he said. "And emotionally." Bello became quiet. Bola waited. He looked down at his hands. "After the accident, people changed around me. Some became overly kind because they believed I was fragile. Others treated my injury as an inconvenience. A woman I was considering marrying told her friend she could tolerate the stick because the money was worth it." Bola's face softened, but she did not interrupt. "I began hiding things," Bello continued. "Not only for security. I wanted to know how people behaved when they did not see power. I told myself it was observation. Sometimes it was control." The therapist turned to Bola. "What do you hear in that?" "I hear that he had reasons," she said. "I also hear that he used other people's ignorance to feel safer." Bello nodded. Yes, he did not turn pain into permission. That was where repair began. Months passed. Bola visited the Ilorin house once to collect books she had left behind. The blue room remained exactly as she remembered it. Her old key still opened the door. Bello stood in the corridor. "You kept it like this?" she asked. "It was your room. I stopped living here. That did not make your things mine." She touched the desk. The first folder of emergency contacts remained inside the drawer. "You thought I would come back?" "I hoped. I did not plan around it." Bola looked at him. "That sounds like progress. I have a very expensive therapist." She smiled. It was the first easy smile between them in a long time. Their marriage existed legally, but they did not pretend the paper meant the relationship had healed. Bello invited her to family events. She attended some and declined others. Bola introduced him as her husband when she chose to and as Mr. Daniels during professional meetings. He followed her lead. One evening, after a farmer training session in Afon, rain trapped them beneath the veranda of the renovated processing center. The new machines hummed inside. Water struck the zinc roof in heavy waves. Bello stood beside her, leaning on his walking stick. The village road had become red mud. Children ran past without stopping to stare at his leg. The women inside were counting toolkits against a posted list. Bola watched Mama Salewa sign a receipt only after checking the serial number on a drying rack. "Do you remember the church?" Bello asked. "I remember too much about the church." "The laughter?" "Yes. Does it still hurt?" Bola considered the question. Not in the same place. He nodded. The rain continued. After a moment, Bello said, "May I ask you something personal?" "You just did." He smiled. "May I ask another?" "Yes." Do you still think of leaving the marriage? Bola looked through the rain. Sometimes. Bello's expression tightened, but he did not argue. She continued. Not because I want to punish you. Because I need to know the choice remains real. It does. And sometimes I think of staying. He said nothing. Not because of the company, she added. Not because of the house. Not because people now respect me when they see your car. Why, then? Because you are learning that love is not the same as managing risk. Bello looked down. I am learning slowly. So am I. The rain softened. Bola placed her hand over his on the walking stick. He did not move. May I kiss you? He asked. This time, she said yes. The kiss was gentle. No crowd saw it. No money changed hands. No secret identity transformed it into destiny. It belonged only to them. 18 months after the wedding, Bola moved back into the Eilerin house. She did not return to the blue bedroom as a guest. She chose which room would become her office. She kept her apartment lease for another 3 months, just in case. Bello did not call that disloyalty. He called it sensible. They continued counseling. They argued about work hours, privacy, and whether Bello's security staff needed to know every place Bola visited. Sometimes Bello became overprotective. Sometimes Bola interpreted ordinary concern as control. Neither pretended love had removed their habits. They named them. They worked on them. That was less dramatic than a perfect marriage. It was more honest. On their second anniversary, they returned to the same village church. There were no expensive decorations, no convoy, no public announcement. Mrs. Danladi attended. Faith sat near the front. Mama Salewa brought a small basket of cassava bread. Peter stood at the back after asking permission to come. Zainab was not present. Her case remained before the court, and contact conditions limited direct interaction with Bola. Through her lawyer, she had entered discussions concerning restitution of traceable assets. She had not transformed into a different person overnight. Consequences had begun. Change remained her responsibility. The pastor asked Bola and Bello to renew the promises they had chosen to keep. Bello spoke first. I promise not to use protection as an excuse for secrecy. I promise to tell the truth before the truth becomes a weapon in somebody else's hand. I promise to respect your no, your work, your money, your movement, and your right to remain fully yourself. Then Bola faced him. I promise honesty, without obedience, pretending to be peace. I promise to speak before resentment becomes silence. I promise to respect your body without pity, and your pain without making it your whole identity. The pastor asked the question again. Bola E.B. Daniels, do you choose to continue this marriage? The first time, she had answered while standing inside a bad situation and reaching for the safest exit she could see. This time, she had an income, her own office, her documents, a home she could rent, a lawyer she trusted, a life that would continue if the marriage ended. Bola smiled. Yes, she said. Not because I have nowhere else to go, because now I know I am free to leave. Bello's eyes filled. The church remained quiet for one long second. Then Mrs. Danladi began to clap. This time, the sound carried no mockery. Years later, people still told the story as if the greatest surprise was that the man with the walking stick had been a billionaire. They said the villagers should not have laughed because the poor man was actually rich. Bola always corrected them. They should not have laughed even if he had no money, she would say. His dignity did not begin when they discovered his bank balance. She said the same about herself. She had mattered in the storeroom. She had mattered behind the weighing scale. She had mattered before the cobalt blue suit, before the audit, before anyone called her consultant or director. Wealth did not create her value. It only gave a crowd another reason to notice what they should have respected from the beginning. From my own view, The richest thing Bello gave Bola was never a house, a car, or a famous surname. It was space to make decisions without punishment. Even that space could not replace the voice she had to rebuild for herself. Families do not own the people they raise. Bride price does not purchase obedience. Marriage does not erase a person's right to money, movement, documents, privacy, or consent. And help stops being kindness the moment it removes another person's power to say no. There is another lesson too. Cruel systems are not maintained only by loud villains. They are also maintained by quiet people who see harm and protect their own comfort. Peter did not create every wound in Bola's life, but his silence gave Zainab room to continue. Feeling sorry is not the same as taking responsibility, and accountability is not revenge. It is records restored, money traced, systems changed, victims heard, power separated. Harm repaired where repair is still possible. A person should never need a billionaire standing beside them before their dignity becomes visible. Bola mattered when she owned nothing. Bello mattered when people saw only his walking stick. The farmers mattered before cameras entered their village. Wealth may expose cruelty, but respect should have prevented it.